It all began in a quiet, unsuspecting town. Men were just playthings in the hands of gods. Isaiah, be careful! Despite his brother's warning, Isaiah found himself slipping from his place on the roof. Jeremy leapt for him and grabbed his wrist as he desperately scrambled across the tiling. "What did I just say?" Jeremy teased. Isaiah laughed weakly and regained his balance. A head poked out through the window. He was a farmer and a friend of the young men, Oliver Garden. "What on earth are you freaks doing out here?" he questioned. "Fixing the roof," Isaiah replied. "I know what you're—" Garden stopped talking and sighed. "I mean, why are you out here when we've got beer inside?" Jeremy smiled and climbed in through the window. Isaiah, still being too young to drink, made his way inside a little less enthusiastically. Two others were inside the house, Dan and Red. Dan prided himself as a warrior, and he had a spirit of battle instilled in him. Despite their friendship, Jeremy often butted heads with him due to the fact that they both had such strong, stubborn personalities. Red, on the other hand, was quite introverted. He didn't speak much, and he almost seemed to blend in with the atmosphere. "How did you get into our house?" Jeremy chuckled. "You left the door wide open," Dan exclaimed. "I know it's a small town, but you boys are too trusting." Jeremy blew a childish raspberry in response. Garden poured out the beers and raised his cup. "Cheers," he bellowed. "What are we drinking to?" Jeremy inquired. "Nothing. We never have the chance to drink to a successful harvest, so we'll have to start drinking to the failures." The room fell deathly silent. Nothing had grown in the town for years. The livestock were living on grass, and the people were living on the livestock, but it wasn't enough. They grew ill without vegetation. Of these 5 men, Garden was the only one with a family to care for, yet he was the only one who continued to smile. It was evident that he was greatly troubled in his heart, though. All but Isaiah quietly took a sip of their drinks. All of a sudden, Red dropped his cup to the floor and jumped back with fright, clutching at the wall behind him with his eyes the size of beach balls. "Red, what's wrong?" Isaiah fretted. All Red could do was point. The others followed his line of sight, but there was nothing there. Honestly, they had always worried that Red was a little unstable. They weren't particularly surprised by this. "There was a man standing there," Red panted erratically. "He appeared through the wall." One cannot blame the others for doubting him. The idea was simply preposterous. However, their certainty wavered as a sharp wind blew through the building, a whisper of a voice drifting through their ears. Dan and Garden stood back to back, Dan drawing his knife and Garden taking the beer bottle to be used as a weapon. Jeremy instinctively shielded his younger brother. "I am the Potato Lord," boomed the voice in the wind. Dan relaxed. "Potato? Silence!" Flames flared up the walls before quickly vanishing again. "I have come to destroy you, but I shall spare your people if one chooses to be sacrificed." "Kill him?" Garden guessed. "Kill him," Dan nodded. Their weapons grew red-hot in their hands, forcing the men to drop them with a curse. "Don't sacrifice me just because I'm the black guy, guys," Red whined. "We keep telling you that we don't see the world through that lens," Jeremy grumbled, still darting his eyes about in search for the source of the voice. Isaiah trembled in fear. "Why is this happening?" he breathed. "I don't want to die." Jeremy suddenly felt all of his tension slip away. The decision was easy, like breathing. "Let it be me," he said. Isaiah's heart leapt into his throat. "Whatever you are, if you swear to leave the town alone, I'll sacrifice myself." The men who had been so willing to fight were stricken speechless by the boy who was willing to surrender. Isaiah wanted to protest, but he couldn't. He was too afraid to speak. He could feel the powerful presence hanging over them all, and he couldn't bring himself to say anything at all. The so-called Potato Lord made no sound. Jeremy swallowed the dry lump in his throat. The tension was too much for his body to handle. Would anything even happen? Was this really the work of some great spirit? It didn't even matter. If his brother was at risk, then there was no other choice. "You are strange," hummed the voice. There was an abrupt thud on the roof. Everyone flinched, but there appeared to be no danger. There was another thud, then another, and another. "Look!" Isaiah gasped excitedly, pointing out the window. It was raining potatoes. They were falling from the sky and rolling across the earth. "There are so many!" Garden suddenly took off out the front door and picked up the nearest spuds. As he did, one dropped onto his head. He yelped and jumped back into the building, rubbing his bruised head with a laugh. "It's a miracle!" he exclaimed. "It's a bloody miracle!" "Tell the others of what happened here and who makes the potatoes fall," echoed the Potato Lord's voice. "This will be my gift to you." It seemed impossible. With no extraordinary prelude, a harvest god had blessed their small town. Jeremy, still on the thought of dying, was too shocked to be able to get his head around it. "You 5 are to build a church to share my teachings." So they did. From that day on, the town was under the protection of the Potato Lord, and the land was fertile with potatoes. The 5 friends led the project of building a church. Out the front they grew blessed potato plants which they had been commanded to never harvest. All was peaceful until a terrible storm came. The church was still incomplete, rain soaking all the unfinished wooden furniture through the gaping hole in the roof. Lightning flashed across the sky, revealing Jeremy's silhouette on the roof. Dan noticed it as he happened to be looking out his window and cursed in irritation. He quickly pulled on his coat and ran across the street to the church in the pouring rain. "Jeremy," he called, "what do you think you're doing up there?" "It's nearly finished," Jeremy called back. "If I can just cover the roof, the interior won't flood." Dan screamed curses up at him, but he knew it was useless. Once Jeremy decided something, there was no stopping him. Dan ran into the church and headed for the stepladder. Every hair on his body stood at attention as he dropped to the ground and clapped his hands over his ears at the loudest crack of thunder he had ever heard, the lightning striking just behind him and illuminating the room. "Dan, did you get hit?" Jeremy panicked. "I'm fine," Dan yelled back over the sound of the rain. He then noticed something out of the corner of his eye. It was a book on the floor where the lightning had struck, smoking and already becoming soggy in the rain. Dan hastily rescued it and moved it somewhere dry. With a strong sense of foreboding, he dared to read the words on the pages.
I hate the sound of my own voice, and this is a really crappy microphone. Is it dramatic? I know I've probably got your personalities really wrong, especially you, Trinity. I'm sorry. I don't know you guys very well. I was just going off my experiences with you. It's not even quite what happened either. But I'm a writer. You just have to trust me. I embellish. It's what I do. It's going to pick up once the Carrot Goddess makes an appearance, because I don't know what happened before that. And James is of very little help. When I ask him what happened, he just kind of shrugs and then doesn't tell me and laughs when I get it wrong. Trinity, I'm going to try and give you some good lines before your disappearance. You seem to be a funny guy, but you didn't really talk much in game. I'll just have to do my best. Isaiah, I'm sorry for making you the younger brother. It's just the vibe you gave me. Maybe it's because I was picking on you so horribly and had James banish you. I'm really exploiting my creative license with you. Oliver, I thought it would be amusing to make you the oldest and give you a wife and kids. Also, it's further justification for your character's future actions. That wasn't a foreshadowing at all. I honestly wouldn't have picked you as the youngest. There's a burglar in my house. They're going to get me. Jeremy, I don't think there's anything about your character that I need to explain. You can't really complain about being the protagonist. Dan, you can complain all you want. I don't really care. No, you're my favorite now because you subscribed to me. Nobody else subscribed to me. Dan did. My best friend in the world. Please let me know if I overstep any boundaries, guys. I don't want to offend anyone. If there's something that really bothers you, let me know and I can change it. I'm looking down here all the time because I've written notes about everything I want to say. All you viewers, please subscribe and prepare yourselves for the next installment of The Great Vegetable War. H's and K's. I got one coming in one door to tell me dinner's ready with sign language, and another writes a note and slips it under my other door. Oh.